think if you walked into a manufacturing facility office in Michigan and suddenly was transported to Silicon Valley? Let's talk about that. Welcome to another episode of The Good, Bad, and Ugly of Business. I am your host, Catryn Becker. And on this podcast, we interview all sorts of successful people so that we can learn what they have learned in their career that has made them so successful. Because while a smart person learns from their own mistakes, a genius learns from the mistakes of others. So by listening to this podcast, you will gain nuggets of wisdom that can help you either avoid the mistakes completely or fail faster through them. Our guest today has had an incredible career that has had him all over the country, out of the country, in the country, through highs and lows, but he has learned so much, and he really learned so much about how to have a great corporate culture, and we're going to get right into that. He is the founder and president of TentCraft. Matt Bulloch, welcome to the show.
Catryn, it's wonderful to be on the show.
It is wonderful to have you here. I mean, when I read kind of your bio and what you've done with TentCraft, I was like, I gotta have this guy on.
Hey, so I was reminded of, you mentioned the mistakes.
Yeah.
This great, I don't want to call it a cliche, remembrance about mistakes that I tell the company all the time is like, it's okay to make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, but let's make different mistakes. And I really like that because it's like, people are going to just mess stuff up. But if someone, including myself, are making the same mistake time after time after time, normally we either have a problem with the person or a problem with the process. And 99% of the time, it's a problem with the process. But you're right. Like, you're going to make mistakes, especially when you're trying to grow and when you're trying to do new things. So I really like your intro and your approach to learning from mistakes.
Well, thank you. I think there's so much that we can learn from mistakes, and we shouldn't be afraid to make them. I think the fear of creating a mistake is what keeps them stuck, keeps them from trying.
Yeah. And I think there's no feedback like actually trying something, putting it out into the market. And it's like trial by motion instead of just locking yourself in a conference room with a dry erase board and making pretty pictures. It's like, you're not going to learn anything in your office or in a conference room. It's like, make a product, ship it, try some new content, try a new approach, like when you started the podcast, right? That was new for you.
Yep.
And it sounds like it's been a really rewarding part of your life and professionally interlocks with what you're doing. So I think it's really cool. You just have to try things.
Well, and I understand that for you to even have TentCraft, that was a bit of a trial. I understand that there was a 3-year period that you and your wife discussed on like, all right, we're going to go for it. If it doesn't work, we'll try something new.
Right. Was that in the bio? I didn't know you had this. So there were kind of
I
two
do
periods
my
like
research.
that.
Come
Yeah.
on. I'm
Okay.
legit.
Okay. So I was when the company started. Do you want to talk about that period, or
Well,
coming
just
back
the
to mission?
idea of like having like, okay, we're going to do this for 3 years. And, where did the 3 years come from? Kind of, what were some of the fears and maybe things that you overcame in thinking of that?
Yeah. So I left an investment banking career to start a company, and a colleague from the bank owned a print company in Michigan. I'm an East Coast guy. I grew up in Baltimore for the most part, and hated my job in New York. Investment banking wasn't a long-term career path. And this entrepreneur that I was connected to through my friend said, "Hey, there's great product. My team doesn't want to do it. If you want to do it, it'll be your company. I'll bankroll it, and we can help with the printing. Our primary product are these printed tents for outdoor advertising." And at that point, I knew I wasn't going to stay in New York, and I viewed it as an entrepreneurial opportunity with the upside of owning my own company. But the downside wasn't very great because I was single, I was unmarried. And if things didn't go well, I thought I would either go back to Wall Street and get some other job, maybe a different bank, or go back for my MBA, which had always been on my radar. And I thought with my time in the military, and then with 2 years of banking and maybe 2 years of a startup, I thought I'd have a pretty good profile for an MBA program. Or I had a friend that was teaching English in Korea and was having a blast, and everything's paid for, and he was traveling on the weekends and making friends, and educators are really well respected in Korea. And I thought, you know what, I can just go to Korea and teach English and try to figure out my next move. So I moved to Northern Michigan, and started the company, grew the company to about 15 employees. And my now wife and I were dating. but we'd done a little on again, off again. And I just wasn't sure that being in Northern Michigan selling tents is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I got into Stanford on my second try. The first year I applied and I applied to 3 business schools. I didn't get in anywhere. And so the second year, which I guess was a failure. It was kind of felt like a punch in the face. Second year I got into Stanford, which was my dream school, just because of all the entrepreneurial energy and focus coming out of Stanford. And my wife moved to San Francisco. I was down in Palo Alto, and she just loved it. She was in a newcomers group. She was in a knitting group, where these primarily women would meet at different wine bars in San Francisco. And it seemed like a lot of Midwestern women as well, which I don't know. I guess that's how it worked. But they would make friends and they would kind of talk and be knitting in the background. And she loved San Francisco. We had been out to visit a few times. We had a big friend network out there. And she really wanted to stay in San Francisco. And I thought my best professional opportunity was to use what I'd learned at Stanford and to really try to grow this little company that I'd started at that point 6 or 7 years prior.
Hmm.
And so it was a little bit of a negotiation. I basically told her, I think when I went to business school, we had maybe 15 employees. When I went back, we had maybe 17. I said, listen, like, give me 3 years and the company's either going to start to grow and start to scale, or we can move again and I'll figure something else out. So that was that kind of 3-year period. And, she likes to say that I did kind of a bait and switch because now it's, I guess, 11 years past business school. But the bait and switch is a time-honored sales technique, right?
Of course.
So,
I
um,
mean, and what marriage doesn't have a healthy dose of negotiation in it?
exactly. So,
We love to use the word compromise.
compromise. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was that 3-year trial period. But even when I went to Stanford, I thought I would be involved in some sort of tech startup. And I just wasn't passionate enough about any of the ideas.
Hmm.
The CEO of DoorDash, uh, Tony Shu, I believe is how you pronounce it. It's XU, so I'm probably mispronouncing it. He was in my class, so I had a bunch of classes with him.
Wow.
So maybe I made the wrong choice. I don't know, but I interned between my first and second year at Apple, and I hated being a tiny piece of a huge organization after running my own company, even if it was a small company. And given that I didn't have another idea that I really liked, and I did feel kind of an obligation to the team that I'd hired and that I had cast a vision, I came back. And so we in the 10 years since, we've gone from about 17 employees to about 100.
That's
And
amazing.
we're doing some startup-y things, frankly, that haven't really worked out super well yet, but we're still trying to figure them out. And then we've also been looking for acquisitions. So that's kind of what I'm spending my time focusing on is the growth side. So organic growth at TentCraft, and then growth through acquisition, and then through new startups that are maybe adjacent to the core
Yeah.
business.
Well, I think it's such a lovely thing that you were able to experience the culture piece of Apple, because that's something that you have brought into TentCraft. And as someone who spent, 20 years in manufacturing, there's nothing like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I was in a consulting firm, and there was a digital piece that was like kind of part of it. And they had a room where they had a ping pong table. And so that was like the most Silicon Valley-esque
Yeah.
kind of thing we did. But it didn't really work with the rest of the culture. It was kind of
Right.
disjointed in how it was done. So how was that bringing that culture in? I mean, you mentioned maybe there was like 15, 17 employees. Did you have that kind of culture before Stanford, or was that really a kind of after Stanford thing?
Um, I think we had kind of a fun startup-y culture, just because we were all in our 20s and we were all trying to figure it out together, and there was a lot of teamwork and collaboration because we all sat together and everyone was doing everything. And so I think the challenge is to kind of keep that culture and that attitude as you grow.
Right.
And we're not a huge company, but I just read in a book that when you're a startup, when you're at the size we are now, like, I may not know everyone right away, where you used to know what everyone had for lunch, right?
Yeah.
Because we were all together. Um, but I do think, I'll use, you have a background in manufacturing. So Michigan has a lot of manufacturing companies, right, of all different sizes. And I'm in a lean learning group, and I've been in other manufacturing facilities in our region, I will say, where you walk in and it's dark and the office furniture is from 1975
There's wood
and
paneling on the wall.
there's wood paneling. And do you know how when fluorescent lights get old, they like buzz? And so you don't know if it's like,
Blink and yeah.
yeah, and you don't know if it's going to like explode, right above your head. Or something that drives me crazy. They have the coffee machine and they've got the old coffee can with like 50 cents,
Yes.
where it's like put 50 cents in for the coffee. It's like, what kind of company cannot like pay for the coffee for their employees?
Right.
And the walls haven't been painted. And I've had these shop managers, stand up there and say, well, we can't hire any millennials because millennials don't want to work. It's like, no, they don't. It's not that they don't want to work. It's they don't want to work here because it's freaking depressing. And I'm depressed being here. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of, low cost or no cost stuff you can do. It's like paint the walls. I don't know, like put up, let employees like give the place personality. If you just kind of empower people to make the space their own, people will do it. You don't have to do it
Mhm.
all. Um, and the reality is like I spend more time at work than I do with my family or at home or, engaging my hobbies. And so like I want a nice place to work and a place where people can collaborate and where there's some cool place to hang out. And like, we do have the ping pong table, but that's not enough, right? It's not enough to just have the ping pong table if you don't have anything else that supports a culture of like collaboration and hanging
Right.
out and teamwork and getting to know different people.
It's interesting. I was on a call with someone yesterday and we're on Zoom like this and I can see the background. I'm like, is that a foosball table behind you?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh yeah, it is. And I go, oh, that's so cool. And he goes, well, except no one plays it. I'm like, oh, why is
Yeah.
that? He goes, because it's really loud. And they it's like in
Yeah.
the center of all these cubicles where people are making phone calls. You can't exactly play foosball there. So it's really to your point that having this kind of, quote unquote Silicon Valley culture is not just putting in ping pong table or foosball table.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it. So can you kind of go a little bit more on some of the other initiatives and things that you've done to create the culture at TentCraft?
Yeah. So I had a mentor that pushed me to establish, you know, values and then a purpose. And I thought that was kind of squishy, something that big companies do. But we settled on our company purpose being to make it better. So make it better. So 3 words, really simple. But I think about it on 3 dimensions. So the first is that we are a manufacturer. We actually make products and we manufacture better products. We manufacture domestically and we don't manufacture kind of disposable throwaway crap. And
Mhm.
so that's an important component of our company purpose, that if we're going to make something, like it needs to be a higher quality, very functional product that our customers care about. And then we do a lot of continuous improvement work, so we try to be a lean company. And so we try to follow a lot of lean manufacturing techniques, which are all about the elimination of waste and constantly looking at our processes. So we're always working to make our processes better. And that's also a little bit of a command to the managers. It's like, if something isn't working well, it's like, well, we'll make it better, right? With the employees, like you make it better. I don't even know how to turn the CNC machines on, right? So, it not only are people empowered, but they're obligated to make improvements in their individual areas through,
Mhm.
we have required employee improvement videos that we can talk about if you're interested.
Sure.
But then the third element is that I think as a business owner, as the president of a small company, I have the ability to make people better. And if that's giving people leadership opportunities, paying them a fair wage, doing profitability based bonuses, by bringing people together, teaching them things, that work, at the workplace that they can apply to their personal lives. It's amazing how many people don't learn about giving feedback or receiving feedback or working together or problem solving. And I think there are things that we can implement and live, that then people can use in their personal lives, that maybe they just no one
It
taught
makes
them.
it better.
Yeah, it makes it better.
I love the clarity and simplicity. I think that so many times we get confused and think that adding more complexity, if it's this big long thing, that's somehow better. But it seems every time the things that are the more simple are the more clear and more powerful and more potent as a result of that. I mean, those three words, you just gave three examples of how they apply in completely different scenarios, yet it all works together really beautifully.
Yeah. In one mechanism, where I gave the example of, I don't even know how to turn on the CNC machines, right? So we have required employee improvement videos that are due every quarter. And so every person at TentCraft is required to make 4 improvements per year.
Oh, wow.
And so 4 improvements per year. It was really, the genesis for the idea came from a book that I love called 2-Second Lean by Paul Akers. Have you ever heard of this book
I
or
don't know
heard of
this
Paul
one.
Akers? If I step away from the camera, I'm sure I have a copy nearby, probably a signed copy. Here we go. Oh man.
The pressure's on to find it.
Boom.
All right.
Okay. So great book, but lean manufacturing originated from the Toyota production system. And so my opinion is that a lot of people that get really into lean really focus on the Japanese origin of lean, and they can really nerd out on everything as a Japanese symbol and a Hoshin Kanri and a poke yoke and a Kaizen event. And I think the average manufacturing employee just immediately is going to roll their eyes and being like, what the hell heck is this, like, manufacturing mumbo jumbo?
Yeah.
And so Paul wrote a book where he said, at its heart, lean is about fixing what bugs you. And so that is the directive, to fix what bugs you, because there's something that bugs me as the CEO. Um, and I can make a little incremental improvement to make that better. Just like there's something that bugs Catryn, new employee in sewing fabrication on day one, that there's just something that you identify that could be done better, either because of your personal experience or somewhere else that you worked. And so we ask people just to make that 2-second improvement, like just make it a little bit better, but then you videotape it and then you share that improvement throughout the organization.
Mm.
And I thought that was really corny when I first read it. I said, okay, I love this idea of like individual improvements, but to actually video the improvements, like, that's a little bit too much. But then I went on a tour in St. Louis of different lean companies, and they were adherents of Paul Akers' book. And at their morning huddle, they shared these improvement videos, and it was so powerful. And their COO, he said that when you actually make the videos and share the improvements, it allows you to celebrate, accelerate, and cross pollinate. So I'm trying to do the
Yeah.
fingers: celebrate, accelerate, and cross pollinate. And so at our morning huddle, we show the videos as we have them. And the videos, these aren't Hollywood level productions. It should be no more than a minute, but you should show the before, talk about briefly what was bugging you and how you fixed it, and then the after, right? So some videos can be 30 seconds, some videos are closer to a minute, but no one really wants to see an 8-minute video that the accounting team did about how they made their accounts payable more efficient, right?
Right.
But when they share the video, everyone claps, right? It's like, hey, like, this was really bugging us. It was taking a lot of time. There were a lot of mistakes. So we made this improvement. So that's the celebrate, right? We see their video, that the accounting team, they have an improvement mindset. They're working hard to make things more efficient. How the company pays people and gets paid is kind of a core functionality. And so everyone is kind of invested in celebrating that Pam and Lori and Chris made an improvement.
I love
With
that.
the accelerate, so the second piece, there's this idea that sometimes the first idea is the worst idea, but it's the most efficient. It's the most important. So first idea is the worst idea, but it's the most important. So we showed the video how they automated a payable report. And then the technology team, they say, oh my gosh, we could, you're doing that in Excel. We could write a macro. Or a different developer says, you know what, I could actually, if we change the ERP, we can just do that automatically, and that will never even be an issue. So by sharing your V1 solution, you get everyone else's improvement minds thinking about how to make it better and better and better. And so the ideas build upon each other. And then the third aspect is the cross pollinate. And so if the accounting team makes an improvement to this report, and then the shipping team says, oh my gosh, we also work on big spreadsheets for split shipments. And if they did this, then maybe we could take that into our department. And so these good ideas start to percolate throughout the company. And so as the owner, 4 videos per year are required. And I make it as easy as possible for people to get their videos done. It can be a little improvement. It can be a big improvement. A whole team can make an improvement. If a whole team makes an improvement, it needs to be a little bit higher level, right? You can't
Sure.
like the whole sales team can't hang a coat rack, right? It's like that, like that's not quite enough. And now this year, we let one improvement video be from people's home, or it can be from outside of work. That if you know, organize your garage in a way that is more productive for your gardening, and you label all your shelves or whatever it is, people are still exercising that improvement muscle.
Sure.
Um, and so, how we enforce that when we first start doing the videos, I think people were really excited about, hey, like, you know, this has been bugging me. Not only am I empowered to fix this, I'm obligated to fix it. And I can share what I did. But then as many new initiatives progress, like after a year or two, like, the initial fun is worn off, and then it just becomes one more thing that people have to do. And so I got up in front of the company and I said, listen, like, I feel very strongly about this. It is really, it's a demonstration of so many aspects of our company culture. But I hate bugging you about it, right? I hate chasing people down saying, hey, Catryn, you didn't make your video. So I only pay bonuses, and I only give raises to people that are clean on their videos. And so it's like our market is always changing. And if you don't want to do the videos, and you're just showing up, and you're an individual contributor, maybe that's okay. But if you want to progress, if you want to grow, if you want to help the company be better, like I need you engaged and invested in it. And I do think a lot of the people that just kind of weren't into it, or just want to show up and, not make changes or not make things better. I do think there's kind of a natural selection. There are a lot of other places where you can just go and,
Just show
punch a
up.
clock, but
Yeah.
it's not TentCraft.
It's a really simple thing. Like we were talking about, just that empowerment of the things that bug us, because without that empowerment, without that permission to have the ability to change it, you just kind of live with it. And I think people can be so flexible and adaptable that we can adjust to so many different situations and scenarios that aren't ideal. So it's really wonderful to have that kind of that culture that you've created there. But kind of as we're wrapping up, the last question I have for you is around you yourself and becoming this leader. I mean, what was it like when you had 1 or 2 employees, and then 50 employees, and then 100 employees? What were some of the levels that you needed to overcome with your own mindset to lead them? Or was it never an issue? You just went with it, and there was never really a process there.
No, so for us, I think the big inflection point was about around 20 people, and maybe there are probably more inflection points coming, but I probably, until we had about 20 people, really did think that I could do everyone's job better than them, because I was a smart guy, or I was, scrappy, or figured things out. And even though I wasn't sewing all the time, I could figure out, if I was sewing all the time, I would have never made this mistake, or I would have been the best sewer. And I don't know exactly what flipped the switch for me, but now I deeply understand that the people that are doing the job, that are closer to the work, are much better than I could ever be at doing that particular job. And my job is to support them and to give them the tools that they need, and to be a resource and answer questions. And so it was really transitioning from thinking that I could do everyone's job better than them, to really deeply believing that they're much better at it than I would ever be. And what I need to do is stay out of the way when they're working hard, and then give them the tools and the structure to succeed and to win.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And it's such a good point, because especially for startup, you had mentioned when it was just the smaller group of you, everyone was kind of doing everything. At startup, everyone's got to wear many different hats all the time. And then you start to get into that flow of, having more of the roles defined, cleaner boundaries on the lanes. And the kind of other thing that I've noticed when I've talked to companies and individuals in this situation is keeping that initial sort of culture alive that made things so wonderful. So have you found any issues with bringing that and scaling the culture piece as you scale the actual people?
Yeah, one thing that has been hard is when we're 15 people and everyone was working together. You think that you're always going to work with people for your whole career, that everyone is going to grow at the same rate, and that everyone is still going to be into what you're doing. And sometimes people's life circumstances change, or they get a great opportunity somewhere else, and we just have to celebrate it. And so I say that I want TentCraft to be the best job that you've ever had. But now I know that doesn't mean that it has to be a job forever, right?
Mhm.
That if I've got a great VP of sales, I've got a superstar salesperson, and they have an opportunity to be a VP of sales at another company, because of what they've learned here. If we've helped prepare them for that great opportunity, I never want to hold people back. I want people to thrive and be happy and be fulfilled. And so that has been a change. Just realizing that that the company changes, and every single day people have an opportunity. If they want to be a part of it, or if they want to do something else, or you know people have a family situation, or people have to move for whatever reason, and then new people come in and they have to be integrated into the team. And so company really is this, it's just a group of people, but it's like living and evolving, and every time someone leaves or someone else joins, like, you really have a new team. And so I think you
Yeah.
can't take for granted that your culture will be the same, because it's malleable and it's changing and it's living, and we have to invest in it and prioritize it and protect it if we still want to have a good company culture.
Oh, that's such a great note to end on. And before we end, just first of all, thank you for being here. I've really enjoyed this conversation. But please share a little bit more about the tents. I mean, from what I saw, when I think about like a farmer's market or, some of these things, and people go to Academy and they buy the, $10 10 by 10 tent, you have no idea what they're selling under there. And so I loved looking at the beautiful tents that your company creates, and what a wonderful way to see like, oh, that's where I wanted to go. Like, I think it's so helpful for the company and for the customers to come together. But tell us a little bit more, just about what the product is and how people can reach out to you, and what that process looks like.
So thank you. www.tentcraft.com, TentCraft. But we sell a lot of printed tents and outdoor advertising material. So we do the flags and the table covers and the banners and freestanding signage. And so our core market are really mobile marketers that want to look great while they're representing themselves or representing their brand. And so we help enable that. And we do a lot of custom work. About half our work come is for advertising agencies or well-known brands like Under Armour, or Metro PCS, or Geico, that buy directly. And then the other half of our revenue originates online, where a small business owner or a restaurant in New Mexico wants one tent because they want to start catering, and they want to protect their staff from the sun, or have their brand front and center. And so we love to work on custom projects. We love to make people look good, and we're proud to manufacture a product that is going to last, instead of turn inside out the first time the wind blows, and tumble down the street and cause a big hassle for everyone.
Well, and something that lasts too. I mean, it's good for many, many seasons. I know that not all of these inferior products are.
Catryn, you need a tent. I know you
I need
do.
a tent. I'm like, gosh, what event am I going to go to? Because I want a tent.
If you have a great tent, you can have your face on it. You'll use it everywhere.
Right? I will find
People ask
events
about
to go to.
you will. I promise you that.
This has been so great, Matt. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. Make it better.
Absolutely. And to the listeners, we want you to make it better. So please go out and check out TentCraft. See if it's something that meets your needs. I know you've enjoyed this podcast episode just as much as we have enjoyed creating it. So please make sure to like this episode, share it with someone who can learn from this, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future interviews. Until next time, everyone, have a great day. Make it better.